aspect of AIM, which is we'll touch on later in this project, is the prevalence of third-party clients. So when AIM was popular, open source developers wrote instant messaging clients that could hook into AIM. They were unsanctioned, and they were constantly battling with AOL for their right to exist. So yeah, just know about that, and we'll talk about it later, because it's very important for how I was able to get the knowledge necessary to do the reverse engineering for writing a AIM server. So sadly, AIM saw a decline in the late 2000s, and then in the 2010s, it just nosedived. So if you remember in 2001, there were 36 million people using it. By the time 2017 hit, there's 500,000 people using it actively. So most of those people went off to other platforms like Google and Facebook. So I'm not sure what the exact reason is why you shut down, but I can imagine if you just have a small fraction of your original user base, it's probably not worth running. They actually did let go of all their staff, I think, around 2015 or so. So for the last couple of years of its life, there was just a skeleton crew keeping it alive. So sorry, I keep hitting my HDMI cord here. Probably should have bought the newer laptop. Anyway, and this is a packet capture of the last packet sent from AIM before shutdown, and this is provided by Mr. Russell Satan Claus. So I thought that was a pretty cool piece of history. And I think this was in December 2017. So why am I nostalgic for AIM? I'd like to take a couple seconds to appreciate this AI-generated image. There's a couple elements of AI in here, which is kind of awkward given the opening talk about AI, but yeah, it's pretty funny. So I guess this is kind of like what I would look like back in the day, sitting at my computer with a wide CRT monitor. I definitely didn't have like CDs hanging on the wall, or they were like laser discs and Napster. It kind of looks like a fever dream from my childhood. You also have two phones, a rotary phone with no cable, and then another phone with a cable and no handset. But yeah, and then there's some writing in the blinds. I find this stuff like very fascinating. But the image, I think, serves its purpose. It shows, I guess, illustrates my nostalgia for AIM. So for me, AIM represents a time when the internet was exciting. So I've been on the internet for almost 30 years, been around the block. It's so ubiquitous in our lives. But back when I was using AIM, you signed on to AIM, you went from the real world onto the internet, and you were there for a period of time, and then you signed off. And it was around this time that I was learning how to code, and I was, a budding software engineer, and that all felt like super fun. And I look fondly upon AIM when I think about that. Another aspect of it that was really cool is the synchronous communication. So when you were signed in to AIM, unless you had your away message up or your friends had their away message up, you knew that they were game to chat. And I spent hours chatting with people online who, I would run these awkward situations where I could chat with them for hours online, but then when I saw them in person, I'd be like, okay, see ya, So it's like really there where I just kind of learned how to, become a person, I guess, right? And the last aspect is just the memories I made with friends. So not just the memories of me chatting with my friends on AIM, but also having my friends over my house and us all gathered around the one computer, talking with somebody causing some kind of shenanigans. We have stories that we still talk about 20 years later that we had. So yeah, so AIM was important for me. So just to give a recap of what was happening here, for 20 years, AIM was running fine. I will be referring to the term client here, which I'm sure most people understand, but just to be clear is when you used AIM, you first had to download AIM onto your computer, run it, and then the client would connect to the mothership, which was AOL, and you talk to people with your client, to other people through the server. And then in 2017, AIM shut down, and then these clients are left defunct. You can still install them today, but they just won't do anything because those servers don't exist. And if you were to install AIM right now and run it and try to connect, this is the error that you would get. There is a neat feature in AIM where if you go into the settings menu and you go into your connection preferences, you can actually set the server that the client talks to. The default value is going to be login.oscar.aol.com, and that's the host name of AOL from back in the day. If you were to substitute that with an address of a server that talks the same language as the AIM servers did back in the day, you can go and connect back to AIM. and that's what I'm doing. So retro AIM server is that piece of the puzzle that lets you relive AIM. So. All right, so we're gonna head to the demo. I just need to take a little water break. A wooter, as I say here, I think, right? Okay, so JawnCon is running an AIM server right now. And it's really funny because I'm just so used to everything running in the cloud, and the server's been up for months. And yesterday I tried to connect, and I was getting ready for this presentation. I was like, oh no, it's not there. So I asked in the Discord channel if I could file like a P1. It's just like, I'm trying to get my presentation going. And they said that the server was being transported here. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I guess I'll wait for them to connect it again. So we're back, and better than ever. Okay, so I'm gonna connect. And I actually have my some of the OGs from my crew from Discord on right now. So the first person that we'll chat with is not a person. It's actually Smarter Child. And if you remember, Smarter Child was like the first chatbot ever. And Smarter Child has been brought back in the form of a ChatGPT bot. Yeah, and I feel awkward talking about it given the intro, but I think this is like the pinnacle of an AI implementation, right? So we'll see. And I'll limit this because it's probably really loud, right? Okay. Yeah, so Smarter Child, he got pretty angry. Yeah, so there are some quirks with it. So the AIM client is not really good with Unicode, so sometimes it'll hit some sketchy characters and then just like literally restart. Yeah, so that's Smart Child. We also got a chat room going here. Let's chat. Hey everybody. And I think this is a pretty interesting experience because I've been talking with these people for months now, and they've never seen my face or heard my voice. So I wonder if they're there. Or maybe the server is just broken. Oh, okay, great. Oh, they're all there. All right. So yeah, feel free to heckle me as I keep talking in the chat, but I'll just show some of the features that you can get with AIM. Oh, see, Mr. Satan Claus is here. Probably mad about the Smarter Child. So in AIM, you can go and you can set your profile. So right now, I have my profile, and right now has a link to the chat room. But I can say anything I want, like hello, I'm Mike. Save it, and then when someone goes to view my profile, they can get the info. Other features as well. You can do the away message. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so you get the point. We basically have a fully functioning AIM. So there are some major functions in AIM that I've implemented, like chat, instant messaging. Oh, Fleshy. Thanks, Fleshy. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, so there's some major features like chat, instant messaging, wave messages, but what really I think is hard to capture here is that there are just so many like little things that need to work. Besides these major features, like you can format your screen name, you can change your password. There's like all these features, and it's taken me like over a year and a half to implement this, and we're not even like close to being done. So, all right, so I'm gonna sign off. Oh, here's my one more thing moment. I ask everybody to put your fingers in your ears because this is going to be loud. I'm sorry, I can't turn the volume down. All right. Okay, thank you. We're good. This is ICQ as well. So this is another chat client that is supported by a retro AIM server, and it uses the same protocol as AIM. So you don't really get it for free per se, just by having a working Oscar implementation, but it was pretty easy to get going like once AIM was set up. So we'll see. We'll talk with Mr. Josh. One more time, ears. Okay. Oh, and I'm also running these clients in Wine. So these are original clients from 2000, and they get some kind of weird visual artifacts occasionally. So yeah. Yeah, ICQ was ridiculous. It seems like it was conceived before there was ever like a concept of product management. It's like got the kitchen sink in it. It's just every little feature. I'm still discovering new features about what exists in here, and I don't think I can ever hope to have everything supported because it's just like so much stuff. But it is hilarious. Like I think this is basic mode, but you can go to advanced mode, and it just unlocks so many other things. Yeah, you can set your ICQ presence. You can say you're away, free for chat, stuff like that. Did not skip on the sounds. That's clear. Okay, I'll stop hurting your ears for now. So, all right. Thanks for everybody for signing on, and I will continue the talk. All right, so let's talk about the origins of the project. So in 2018, this story made national news, which is pretty funny. It was in USA Today and covered by many other news outlets. There's a service called AIM Phoenix, and it basically was a service that allowed you to do the same thing that you can do with Retro AIM Server, where you go to the site and you sign up and you're able to connect to AIM. Now, you lost your old buddies, but you're able to create any screen name you want. So if you had like that dream screen name in mind, chances are you could create it because there were so few users at the time. In addition, they helped you set up your client. Running AIM and ICQ on modern systems is a little difficult, just because there's been so much change in the past 20 years that you have to do some work and some tweaks to get them running. So AIM Phoenix at the time was the only place where you can get your AIM fix and your InfoWars fix. For some reason, they also had a scrolling marquee of all the news feed. So this day, they reported that America is led by a puppet president who takes orders from the Easter Bunny. So that was literally from that. So pretty cool. So I didn't actually sign up for it, but I thought the concept was cool because at that time I had not used AIM for 10 years. And I thought, well, I do remember that there were these third-party clients, so someone must know something about the protocol. It would be cool to go and figure that out. Unfortunately, AIM Phoenix was and still continues to be closed source. So I thought it'd be cool if we could actually see the source. But I put it on my bucket list to check it out. And 5 years later, I decided to check off that bucket list item. So this is June 2023, and I said, all right, I'm just going to work on this for 1 month, and I'm going to try and create a server so that I can connect my clients to it and maybe send some instant messages, and then just move on. Because I was between projects at the time, and I didn't really want to commit to something new like this, but I just wanted to, satisfy that itch. So I implemented the login flow, implemented IMs like you saw before, away messages, profiles, and the warning feature. And warning is actually like my favorite feature. I don't know if you remember, but like it was just kind of like mayhem. Like you're talking to somebody, you warn them, and then you're automatically rate limiting them. And if you warn them enough, they can't even talk to you for like an hour or something like that. And like, if I have a stressful day at work, I just come home, get on AIM and talk to a smarter child and just warn the hell out of them. Makes me feel better. So get those features implemented, and then I just start recreating some AIM conversations from scratch, from memory rather, screen capping them and then sending them to my friends, like out of nowhere. I didn't even tell them that I was doing this, and they're just like, what is this? So yeah, you see my friends like, yo, what the hell? But he's saying with way more of an accent, right? So 4 months later, it's 1 month, but then it kind of expanded to 4 months. I figured, okay, I'd accomplished what I set out to do. I don't really know if there's like much point in continuing. I'm going to move on to something else. And at this point, this is what the project README looked like. It very bare bones, and it just showed you how to get the program running and just do a couple basic tasks, but it didn't really explain like why or what it did. But at this point, I had gotten no attention on the project, and then the YouTuber mk6i started the project. And if you're not familiar with him, he's a sort of retro tech YouTuber with 1 million followers. And he and an associate just started the project, and then I just started getting more attention. More people started starring it. And I figured that if these people cared enough about the project that they were able to, because people were filing issues at this point, they were filing some pull requests. If they were interested and I had put 0 effort into documentation, maybe I'm onto something here. And up until that point, I never thought to do this. I had no idea if anyone else was doing the same thing. So I just Googled open source AIM server. And I got back some results. And honestly, at first, I was a little disappointed because I'm thinking, like, I really like doing this. I was really addicted to working on this. I was working on it every night for 4 months. And I'm like, well, I don't know if there's really much point in continuing if it's already being done by other people. So I looked around, looked at these results just to see, like, what the landscape was. So, of course, there was AIM Phoenix still. And then there's another platform called Nina. Now, Nina has a similar objective to AIM Phoenix, except that it has a much larger community, has like thousands of users, and it has much better client support, and it only requires like a one-time donation for access to it. And they also offer MSN and all the other clients, so that's cool. But they're still closed source, just like Phoenix. And then on the other hand here, you have a server called iServerD, which is not necessarily a revival server because it was created in the early 2000s by someone named Alex Shutko over in Russia. And it is the first, as far as I can tell, reverse engineered Oscar server. Oscar is the name of the protocol that AIM uses. So it's fully featured for its day. It was really meant for ICQ, but it also had AIM support. But it's bit rotted ever since. It's very difficult to get running these days. It uses platform-dependent data types, so you just can't compile it for your 64-bit system. So while that's there, it's cool. Where retro AIM server is an improvement is that you can just install it now on your modern machine and just run it right away. And then there's another project called AIM Oscar server, which is very interesting to me because retro AIM server is written in the Go language. This one is also written in Go. It has similar objectives. It supports AIM up to version 3.0, and it powers this other AIM network called Running Man Network. And currently, it's not under active development. But I saw that the author lives in my city, so I just reached out to him, and it turns out he lives in my neighborhood. So I was just like, really excited to meet him. So I did get coffee with him, and it was really interesting to talk with someone who is so deep into this like really obscure hobby. That was like one of the first, people I've met through the project, which I thought was really cool. So I thought to myself, like, I really want to keep working on this. I really want to do it, but I also want there to be like a reason to do it. So I figured out some principles that I would apply to the project, and they still continue to this day. So the first one is to make it 100% open source. That has been a given since the beginning. The other is to make it easy to use. I want to make it so that you can go to the project repo and just understand right away what you need to do in order to get it set up. So that means clear documentation, minimal to no software dependencies, have sensible defaults so you can just run it and you don't have to think too much about what settings you need to apply. And then also provide binaries for all the major platforms so that you don't have to check out the code and compile it yourself. While it is easy to compile a Go app, there is just enough friction in the process that it may turn people away from using it. The third one is to focus on software preservation. So AOL put out just like a crap ton of clients over 20 years. So retro AIM server aims to, pun intended, target clients from the year 1998 to, let's say, 2006. And in that time period, over 100 versions of AIM were released. The project currently supports, I've personally verified 80% of those clients in that they work. And there are also clients released for Mac OS 8 and 9. There are over 40 versions of those. We support a handful of them, and that's where I'm going to be focusing attention in the coming months. And then there are also the third-party clients and then ICQ. So the idea here is that maybe, it's more than possible that we're not going to get 1 million users using AIM again, but at least if you're interested in it, you can run your server and re-experience it as you did back in the day. And that means that every little feature works. And then the last one is to make the server with server operators in mind, and that means giving them the flexibility to manage the server and integrate it into their existing environment. So the server provides a powerful management API that currently has over 20 functions that allows you to configure all aspects of the server. Some examples here are creating chat rooms, getting a list of signed-in users, and resetting a user password. And where this fits into making things easier for people is that other servers provide like a CLI or a GUI, and that's just difficult to integrate if you already have like a web service going. So I feel that having a REST API provides you those facilities in a decoupled way. So tying all together, going back to like, all right, all this, there are already these existing revival services. How is Retro AIM server different? It's open source. It's easy to use. It's fully featured with a focus on software preservation, and it's optimized for platform development. All right, so I'll go a little bit into the technical aspects. So Retro AIM server is a Go service. There's not a lot to look at here, and that's why I didn't even really include the demo in the demo. But when you run it, it just is, it's terminal, right? It's written in Go. I chose to go with SQLite for the database because a problem with some other solutions is that they have so many software dependencies that you need to set up in order to get things going that it might discourage you from even getting started to begin with. SQLite is it's a server that runs in process. You don't have to do any setup. All the migrations are handled automatically. So, if you're not technical, you may not even be aware of SQLite, period, because you just didn't have to do anything to get it going. And then it's compatible with all the major operating systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux. This is the application architecture of Retro AIM server, and it resembles that of just like a typical web service. You have your connection manager, which is analogous to the HTTP server. That routes requests into message handlers that are written for every type of protocol message, and then those message handlers plug into this package that handles all the protocol encoding and decoding. And then on the right side here, we have the management API server that plugs into the state layer, which is shared with the Oscar server. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the protocol. And the protocol that AIM and ICQ uses is called Oscar. Despite the word open being in the name, this is not an open protocol. It was never officially opened by AOL. They did at one point in the late 2000s provide some official documentation. But besides that, as far as I can tell, almost all the knowledge about Oscar has been done through reverse engineering. Now, the basic building blocks of the protocol are called snack messages. And snack messages, snack stands for Simple Network Atomic Communication. And they represent the messages, the individual protocol messages that are sent between the server. And then these snacks are categorized into food groups. Snack, food group, kind of thing. This is an example of some of the food groups that you can have. One is called BART, and that's for managing buddy icons. There's another one called ICBM, which is for sending messages. ICQ is for the ICQ subsystem, and then feedback is for buddy lists. So within each of these food groups, you're going to have just a bunch of snacks that are arranged in a certain sequence that accomplish some major functions with the name. So this is like, I guess, the core of the project. This is like what I've been doing for the past year and a half, and that is figuring out each snack. Each snack is a puzzle, is a puzzle piece to decipher. The more messages that you decipher, the more functionality that you can unlock. And there are just a lot of snacks. There's over 250 of them. Retro AIM server supports 54 of them, and that represents some of the core functionality within AIM. And the rest that remain, a lot of them are unknown. We just know that this snack exists, but we don't really know what it does, or they may not be critical to the project's goal. But I can see for the next 6 months or so, there's still being a good number of snacks that we're working to decipher. So this is a bit of the structure of the snack message. First of all, it's set up, it's layered like an onion, and then on the outer layer you have the flat protocol, and the flat protocol just basically frames the message. And then within the flap, you'll find the snack, and the snack frame specifies what food group you're talking about, what snack you're talking about, and some other metadata that's required for interpreting the message. And then based upon that type, you can unmarshal the snack fields. And these are the fields that contain the information that's pertinent to that particular message. And then one last type that's a feature of most snacks is the concept of a TLV block. And a TLV block is basically a list of data that a variable list of data that is used to augment the snack. Here's an example of a snack, and this is the snack that is used for sending the message from the client to the server. You can see the snack header here. It has a snack family 4 for ICBM, message 7, which means it's client to server. And then the snack fields here contain the meat of the message. So you'll have the screen name of the user who's going to receive the message, their warning level, and then within this TLV block, you have information about that's used to, I guess, decorate the user within the AIM client, like what kind of client they are they OA or not, like how long have they been online for. And okay, so now we have an understanding of what a snack message looks like. Let's talk a little bit about the process of deciphering the snacks. These bubbles represent the main methods that I've used to figure out what a snack is. So the biggest one here is iServerd, and that's the server I mentioned before that's bit rotted. Even though it's difficult to run, I've never actually personally run it. The source code is very legible and the documentation is great. And I would say that iServerd has provided about 80% of the insight I've needed in order to get a working knowledge of the protocol. It does, however, have some missing details that were needed to get some of the important features like chat and authentication and buddy icon management working, but it provided like a great foundation for the project. The next is GAME or Pigeon source code. GAME was one of the first open source AIM clients that was released. It expanded to include other protocols, but it was initially just for AIM. They had some legal issues with AOL in the early 2000s, and in 2007 they settled with AOL and they changed their name from GAME to Pigeon. They were in a constant struggle with AIM to keep the client working. AOL played this game with other other clients as well, where the service would be working and then they would introduce a breaking change into the protocol so that the clients would break. And then the third-party developers would have to figure out a workaround, fix it, and then the cycle would just repeat. One of the most egregious examples of this is a snack that actually exploited a buffer overflow in the AIM client, where it would literally ask you, the server would literally send a snack to the client asking for something in a static memory region at a certain offset, and the client would dutifully retrieve that information, send it back, and then AOL would inspect it and say, like, okay, that's a valid client. So these third-party developers, like GAME, had to figure that out in order to keep the clients working. And if you got caught with an unsanctioned client, you would get this message from AOL telling you that you're using an unauthorized piece of software and that you should go get the real thing. And it's funny to look in the source code because you can kind of see this struggle play out over the years. So they figured out this snack, they figured out what message needed to be sent back, and they're just like, AOL's been doing this for a while, neener, we win again. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And in the iServerd source code, I couldn't even like show them to you here in Polite Company. They're just like so crude. But it gives you a flavor of what the relationship was between AOL and these developers. I've always been personally curious about how these developers got their snack knowledge. And if you go to their interviews or look at their documentation, none of them claim to be doing any reverse engineering. But I'm skeptical of that. Like, I don't know how you would get all of that by just looking at the protocol. Maybe it's possible, but I doubt it. The author of Game claims that in the early days, AOL actually helped them out with creating the client. So maybe at the time they provided some documentation that became the basis of what we use now. I don't know. This is sort of the relationship between all the different sources of knowledge that I have here. One of the originals that came out was called libfame. And this is written by somebody in the late 90s where they wrote a library that allows you to write a client that interacts with AOL. Published it, made it open source, and then that got incorporated into Game. And I think that iServerD also drew inspiration from that. And Game also pulled in from iServerD, and then all this knowledge just ended up into Retro AIM server. So what I kind of see my project as doing is uniting all these different sources of data and filling in all the gaps to make a usable implementation. So another way that I figured out snacks was through trial and error, because sometimes I would go and I would implement the snack according to the documentation, and then things would not work. And oftentimes that was just because I misunderstood something about the documentation, or maybe even something was wrong with the documentation. And after a while, I got better about fixing these problems as they would come along. For example, I developed an intuition that if you implement the change and the client crashes, it's because the snack is misconfigured, maybe has a wrong data type or incorrect ordering. If the client's hanging, it's because it's waiting on a request for the server. And if looking at none of those worked, then I would just kind of hit it with Ghidra and just see like, okay, like what's the correct sequence here? And then that would answer my question. All right, so that's how I did the reverse engineering part. Let's continue the timeline here. So fast forward to about May of this year. I'm working on more features. I get buddy icons working. I get chat rooms working. And then Josh, who's a member of our community, he opened a ticket, an issue in GitHub and asked, hey, can you create a Discord server? And the irony wasn't really lost on me that like someone's asking me to create a Discord server for my chat application, you know. But I mean, honestly, like, you know, Discord's way better in terms of just modern conveniences. So I said, sure, and I'll create it. And as soon as I created the server, 3 people joined and like just had this nice community going, you know, right from the get-go. And over the months, like this has really become an important part of my life. It's like really become like my third place. You know, so when I log in at night and I'm coding, everyone's there. We're closing in on 100 members. So people are joining, they're asking me questions. They want to get started with AIM. They want they want to get started with Retro AIM server, and they want to figure out how they can contribute. So it's just like a really nice community, and people are just geeking out on all sorts of topics out of nowhere. I don't really moderate this discussion a lot. I don't really care if people are talking about off-topic things in the support chat, for example. I'm just happy that everyone's there, and I'm looking forward to, you know, further growth there. So this community has been going for about 6 months now, and I kind of have a sense of who's joining, right? And it basically comes down to millennials and Gen Alpha. Millennials are there because they want to relive AIM like I did, and they're interested in helping out with that. Gen Alpha, for them, this is like totally retro. It's like from another world, which again makes me feel my age. Like it's not that long ago, but you know, it's long enough that they weren't even born when this AIM was in its heyday. We do get, you know, a fair number of trolls coming to the server, and I will say that I have never met a millennial troll. So that's what I'll say. Yeah, so the server started the Discord server, and then we started getting some attention from some YouTubers. This is one video that came out of the YouTube channel Clab Retro. He did a video about setting up his own dial-up network in his basement. And the goal is that he wanted to set up this network so that he could talk to his wife and I guess relive their budding relationship that they had over AIM. Using dial-up. So I'm just going to play the clip real quick.
There happens to be a recent open source version of the AOL Instant Messenger server. It's under active development. The maintainer is very responsive. I thought I was having an issue, and they responded within minutes. So definitely recommend this one. It's got tons of support. It's as simple as downloading one of the releases and running the run shell script. So I have a server running right now. Then all you have to do is get an AIM client installed, go to setup, connection, point the host at the IP of the machine you're running the open source server on. And it's configured in a really user-friendly way. You can type in any screen name and any password, and it'll just let you in. Because I mean, really, that's all we're doing. We're just messing around with something like this. So we can log in, and here we are. But you haven't seen that in a long time. Oh, one of my buddies is online.
So that was a great day. We got a flood of people to the Discord server, lots of people downloading, and I felt like after working on this for a year, it was finally getting some real attention. I learned about this video because someone joined the channel, and she said, "Hey, I'm here from the video," and I'm like, "What video?" And she shared the YouTube video. I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm really interested in this because it might work really well for my internet service provider that I run." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you run an internet service provider?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." So she sends me this picture. I'm like, "Okay, so you run it in here?" Like, all right, cool. And then I saw the hardware. I'm like, "Okay, this is like kind of a real deal here." So this shed contains a data center. The service is called ChivaNet, by the way. It contains a data center which is a mixture of new and old hardware. And I think the best part about this is that it's actually like a real ISP that makes some money, running some real web services, and it's connected over a T1 line that was installed 10 years ago. And the engineer who installed the T1 line said that before that he had not installed a new T1 line in 20 years. So Serena, who is the proprietor of this ISP, is like really all in on the retro aspect. So another nice aspect about this ISP is that it provides internet services for low-income users in the community. So I think it's pretty noble. And this is what ChivaNet looks like. I really recommend that you check it out, chivanet.org. It's kind of got a little bit of everything retro. It's got a retro BBS. It's got retro AIM server. Everything is homegrown. The ticketing system is homegrown. It's just like really fascinating to use. Also at this time we got a shout out, well not a shout out, but we just got a link in the register, which I thought was pretty cool because I always read the register growing up. And the article was about the fact that ICQ shut down this year and people were scrambling to find alternatives for that. And Nina, that service that I mentioned before, is the forerunner in all this. But in terms of open source projects, we were given a shout out along with Oscar AIM Oscar server. And there are people just doing cool stuff with retro AIM server. For one, we have JawnCon. JawnCon has its own server. Someone created a management front end, native macOS front end for managing a server. Someone sent me a picture recently of them running retro AIM server and AIM on their smartphone, which is pretty cool. People in our community are working to get these obscure mobile devices that run AIM working. On the right here, you have a device called an IM Free, which has a pretty funny story. So back in the day, everyone only pretty much just had like one family computer, and you probably had one or more kids that wanted to be on AIM. So you can get these devices that would hook into your main computer wirelessly and allow you to chat on AIM. And here, Josh is talking with Smarter Child, having a brilliant conversation. And also, Josh recently, I think it was yesterday, had a sort of like retro tech fair at his job, and he set up a booth for AIM. So I'm happy to see other people spreading the word about this project and getting excited and getting involved. So what's next for the project? So I intend on coming up with a V1 at some point. For me, V1 means that this software is just mostly done in terms of features. So to get there, there are a few more things that we'll need to do. One of them is implement the TOC protocol, which is an alternative to Oscar, which was opened by AOL, and it was meant for people who wanted to create third-party clients. It was discontinued early on, but it would be cool to have. Continue on the Windows AIM client support version 1 and 6. Finish all the ICQ versions that were released up until the year 2005. File transfer stuff, user privacy. And then also the last thing which I think is important is like retro AIM server is not really secure. If you have knowledge of the protocol, you can go mess things up. So we'll really need to focus on buttoning that up so that ChivaNet doesn't get hacked. I also would like to expand the AIM revival community. I think, in terms of the number of people who could be interested in this, I think the number is quite high. So, for example, in the Nina Discord, they have 10,000 users. And that just shows me that there are just a lot of people out there who are interested in this kind of stuff. And I think that, if it's been a while since you've used AIM, or if you're a young person, AIM is refreshing because it's very stripped down, it's fast. It doesn't have like a lot of bells and whistles like Discord and Slack have. And it's definitely just got a certain feel to it that I think is quite appealing. So how do we expand the community? One idea I have is to build a bridge between Discord and AIM. So the idea here is that we can funnel people in from Discord into AIM by giving them some visibility into what conversations are happening on the AIM servers. Another idea I have is to sort of give back to the community, give back to the people that created all this documentation, because really the knowledge I have is like standing on other people's shoulders. I basically just did the work to glue this stuff together, with a little bit of my own reverse engineering in the mix, but it's mostly just what other people did. And I can give back by creating some authoritative documentation on Oscar, so that if you want to create your own server or your own client, these documents can be a one-stop shop for all that. And I'd like to do that by actually generating documentation from code. And that would mean that the documentation is never really going to drift too far from the actual implementation. And then the last idea that I'd like to look into is one that was brought up to me by the AIM Oscar server author, is server federation. So it kind of solves the problem of everyone wants to run their own server, which is pretty cool. But how do you get enough people to join your server and get the critical mass needed to form a community? So if everyone's starting their own server, then no one's going to be talking to one another. So the idea here is that you can take your retro AIM server and connect it to someone else's retro AIM server, and then just for free get all their users, and vice versa. I think that could be really powerful and really improve the size of the community. So one outcome that I would love to have from talking at this conference is to get other people involved. So I invite you to try Retro AIM server for yourself. If you go to the GitHub, there are clear instructions on how to download the server, get a client working, join the Discord. Also would love to have some more coders. As I mentioned before, there are tons more features to implement. And if you join the community, we can help you learn Go. If you don't know it already, we can help you learn how to decipher the snack messages. And then another important aspect here is testing. Right now, the testing is kind of ad hoc. There are hundreds of clients, and we don't really have a system right now for categorizing all the clients, categorizing all their bugs, and figuring out like what we need to do next. Also don't have like any automated regression test suites, which would be great. Sometimes I'll put out a change and it'll just break like one obscure client that I'll never know, because I'm not going to test like all 100 clients manually. So yeah, that's where we can use some help. So thanks for coming to my talk. Please visit the repo. Thanks to my wife for all the support in this project. Thanks to my friend Jay for all the testing. Jay is my childhood friend who sat down with me for hours and tested AIM and found a lot of bugs I just didn't find on my own. Shout out to all my friends on Discord who have been there since the beginning, Josh, Serena, and Yukozi. Collab Retro and mk6i for boosting the project. It was a really big help. And to Russell for organizing the conference and having me. Thank you very much. And we have some time for questions if there are any. Otherwise, we can talk after.
For questions, please use the mic up front.
Also, like the demo that you had up there with some of the windows, I just wanted to grab a picture of that and send it to some old friends, like, hey, it's all the way that. And that would be worth like a ton of laughs.
Okay, you got it. So for those online, that gentleman asked to see AIM again. Would you like to see ICQ as well?
Sure, like one of each.
All right. Years again. Years, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Oh, it looks like Smarter Child went offline. Is anyone available to just chat with me? Oh, we have the John bot. I forgot about the John bot. So if you want to find some more info about the talk, you can talk to this John bot. I think it's really cool. I think this runs the Perl client, which is pretty sweet. Okay. Oh, Smart Child's back. Phaser. Oh, hey, Phaser. All right, I'm going to close out of this just because I don't want people's ears to burst. You got your picture, sir? All right, cool. All right.
Is the right mic?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's the right mic. Yeah.
I'll just yell. How different is the Oscar protocol and Snap stuff from the rest of the AOL? Like mobile clients, mobile communicator, like there's a bunch of other protocols that all speak talk. And so that may speak like what, 2.3 or P, whatever the protocol the AOL is. Like, how close are you to like the AOL mobile messenger versus the AOL mobile protocol?
Yeah, good question. So I've never used Talk myself, but from my understanding, it's like a text-based protocol, whereas Oscar is a binary-based protocol. And in terms of like the actual protocol structure, they appear to be miles apart. But we should be able to easily implement that just because we can the services are abstracted enough where I can just parse the messages and just have them plug into the existing message handlers. Now, in terms of the AOL protocol, I don't have any interest in doing that, like getting the old AOL working, but there are other services, including Nina, which do support AOL. So if you wanted to install like AOL 5.0, you can just like go do that, which is pretty cool.
Were there any fun, unexpected, interesting snaps that you came across that might not have expected to be there?
Fun snacks. I would have to say like that one snack I mentioned before about like the client verification, where the server was like, give me this memory offset. I think that was definitely one of the more surprising ones. I think the snack that is probably like the most curious for me is the ICQ snack. So ICQ was acquired by AOL. It had like this already existing code base, and AOL basically shoved all of the ICQ protocol into this one snack. And the Oscar protocol, all the snacks are in on big endian ordering, and ICQ is little endian. So when you get the ICQ snack and you need to like get the ICQ protocol that underlies it, you have to go and switch the orderings, and that can get like quite confusing at times. Anybody else? Mr. Dots.
With the federation idea, I could see there being like a lot more users connecting. Would it still be the case where you need to like know everybody's screen name and like add them to your list, or have you thought about like some sort of way to like chat more widely and just discover people?
So the gentleman asked about with server federation, I guess like how do you handle all the usernames and know that like this user belongs to this node, vice versa, right? And make them discoverable too, right? So there's a really I guess kind of poorly understood mechanism in the protocol, but you can have @ signs in screen names. So what the servers could do is they could say, all right, I'm going to import all these users and just append the @ server name to it. So that way you could theoretically have two different users with the same screen name operating on different servers. And I think that everything else should just kind of fall into place because all the data sources are abstracted. I think that it should be doable to just say, okay, well, another server connection is just another data source, and it would make no difference to the protocol. I think the rub there is that some of the older clients don't support the @ sign, so they may not work with the federation, but I think that's just that's how it works. And there is a directory search feature in AIM, so you can type your interests, or address or whatever, and just search for people, and that should still just work if you implement it according to the protocol.
And it seems that there's not really a big source of open source clients anymore. It looks like Pigeon has removed their Oscar support a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Do you know of any active development or any places to look for something that isn't AOL proprietary code?
That's a great question. And personally, I'm not super interested in that because I'm more about making the old clients work, but I definitely see the appeal of being able to use AIM in a modern way. I've seen some people talk about reintroducing that AIM, that Oscar code back into Pigeon, which I think would probably be the easiest path, just because only a few versions of Pigeon have passed since that happened, and it might just be trivial to put it back in. I've also seen people talk in Discord about creating their own clients, their own AIM clients, especially one that just runs in a browser. Because that's really the biggest source of friction for people who want to use AIM again, is like, how do I get this client to run? Because the backwards compatibility with old AIM clients on modern Windows is just like kind of atrocious. Like you install AIM and it just will crash. It'll just hard lock your system. So yeah, I don't know about anything else going on besides the potential Pigeon project. So I think that's an interesting thing that someone may want to take up. And from our project standpoint, I would love to provide great documentation for anyone to be able to easily do that. One more question? Okay. All right, that's all I got. Thank you very much.